in the business intelligence world.
Right.
It's heavily focused here in this market.
Mm-hmm.
This opportunity was great. And basically what I do is a combination of business intelligence and partnerships in the sense that my job is to not only provide data, but be able to create a storytelling around all the data we have, and we pull from different sources, internally, externally, to provide to the, first of all, the sales team.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Sporting Global podcast. And today I'm here with Fernando. And Fernando, how's life? And happy New Year's, by the way, as well. And I was about to say Happy New York because you are in New York, so that's pretty good as well. How's life?
Hey, thank you very much for the invite. Life is doing good. Enjoy New York. Enjoy the new year. Happy New Year. It's amazing to be here in the podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure having you part of this, and it's we have an interesting story, on our hand, and you've been a little bit, all over the place, I guess, in a sense. And for those that don't know, you're originally from Peru, and you're working in New York. You have studied in Spain, and a lot of good things is happening these days. Of course, we have the COVID and everything, which isn't that good, but I'm sure from a business standpoint and professional standpoint, things are looking good. And we're excited to have you part of this and share your story.
Yeah, of course. Happy to share my story and very happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to dive right into it, Fernando. And I just wanted to know a little bit about how your journey in the sport industry began. Just take us to the beginning, of everything.
Well, I hope it's not so long of a beginning. So,
hey, we'll cut you off if necessary.
Perfect. Well, I started playing soccer very young, so
right.
Always I think that's a very common story. You want to be professional, that's how you dive into the industry.
Right.
But I was more passionate about the business side of sports. Being from Peru, you always saw this lack of management, of organization, and at least you saw the sport, even from minor leagues, they needed some kind of management that go to first division, at least in soccer. That wasn't very well structured. So that sense of trying to do something better in our country was what made me realize I wanted to be involved in the sports industry.
Right.
So at that time there were no sports careers, at least back home. So I studied marketing in Peru. When I was finishing already my bachelor's degree, I saw the Real Madrid school open their sports marketing program. So I applied right away. I was already working at sports at the moment. I was organizing sports events and worked for an ex-soccer player for a national team from Peru.
Right.
He had his own soccer school. So we were working on that, and when I saw the opportunity, I didn't think twice. And I applied to the Real Madrid Business School, went to Spain. That was already 8 years ago, probably. In my time in Spain, when I was studying, I also worked at AS.com. It's sports journalism in Madrid. So that was my first broad experience working in the sports industry.
Right.
And after finishing the program, my thesis was eventually my startup that I decided to take it back home. That was similar to you will say somehow a sports LinkedIn, in the sense that we were trying to help athletes get sponsorships and get access to brands. That is not very easy in South America, especially if you're not in the soccer industry.
Right.
So athletes that want to go to the Olympics, they don't have the big budgets to compete. So we're focusing on that. And always, as a soccer passionate, on the side, I co-founded another startup that was focused on, or more of a small company, was focused on leveraging the image of some national players to build sports academies as well. That was part of my background at the beginning.
Yeah.
And eventually, I always had the interest in coming to the US and came to study at Columbia Sports Management in 2019, and it's been great to know the market. I experienced before in Peru. I also lived in Chile with my previous company. I also got to know it in Spain as well, and now having that comparison with the U.S. market, understanding how the industry works. Even in New York, it's quite as big as you can imagine with all the sport major leagues that are here.
Right.
And at the same time, I had my opportunity to work at Bayern Munich here in New York, and now at New York City FC in the MLS.
There you go. And we have to talk a little bit about the New York FC, you know, and the MLS club. First and foremost, like, you know, I assume like the majority of people that are like tuning in here doesn't know that you guys have a Norwegian head coach, which is pretty cool in a nutshell as well. And obviously those that are tuning in, most cases they know that we're Norwegian, so we can like, you know, had to just, you know, put that in there. But also congrats, I guess, in a sense that you guys just won the cup, right? The MLS Cup, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's our first time in the history that we reached the final, and also that we won it. So it's great. Awesome. The team has 7 years of history, so it's still a young team, but
very young.
First time we did it, so it's great. Yeah, Ronnie, he did great. He took us to
the final. So a little piece of your history goes to Norway too.
A big piece now. That's going to be forever.
You know, I'm just trying to like do this modestly, you know, in a sense, without taking too much Norwegian credit. We don't like that, you know. We just have to mention it. But
I think that as well, because in the starting 11 there's a Peruvian player, so.
There you go. Awesome. You know, so you're part of the history. We're part of the history. It's all win-win. And obviously you're working there, you know, which is also a big part of the history. And I guess like, so as far as I know, you're the, you know, partnerships business intelligence analyst at New York City FC. And why don't you just bring out a little bit like, what are some of your key responsibilities and tasks there, so people can like get an essence of what do you do at a daily, you know, basis?
Yeah, no, it's great to know. To start, my background has always been in partnerships. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons to come to the US was getting involved more in the business intelligence world. Right. You know, it's heavily focused here in this market. Mm-hmm. This opportunity was great. And basically what I do is a combination of business intelligence and partnerships in the sense that my job is to not only provide data, but be able to create a storytelling around all the data we have, and we pull from different sources, internally, externally, to provide to the, first of all, the sales team, to reach out to prospect clients and see how we fit with them and what's the opportunity with us. Mm-hmm. So let's be able to understand who are we approaching, where are we approaching, and what story we're turning to them.
Right.
And also it's how are we telling the story to our current partners as well? Like how are their return of investments going on? Like what's happening, what we're doing. So it's basically leveraging data that we have and provide it in the story way matter to current sponsors and potential leads as well.
It seems like quite like I guess like the importance of analytics and data management seems like, you know, key tasks in that, which in a sense is, you know, some key skills I guess the upcoming students has to, you know, perhaps learn as well. I don't know if you want to like emphasize a little bit on like, you know, what, I don't know, maybe some tools or like some stuff they can start looking into to kind of like just get a little bit into that bubble.
No, yeah, of course. It's very analytics focused. So there are different platforms you can use. We have internal platforms. It's basically we have people from the inside that have our own warehouse, and you can be able to pull information like through SQL code, and you can start pulling from different sources because we receive we have multiple touch points with our fans. So we have like from the ticketing side, from when they buy merch, from where they subscribe to an email chain or a newsletter, etc. There are several touching points. So we try always to connect them and be able to see where the users are, which ones are the same, if they have a different login.
Yep.
But in that sense, we're able to pull and understand who they are, what they do, what's the demo, and what they're looking for, like attendance. And also you have like third party sources where you can understand also like how big is your audience outside the one you already have, or in your market, outside your market,
Right.
things like that. So you're able to understand also propensities, like if they're have like a specific like for different like specific categories or beverages or autos or any category you can think in your mind.
Yeah.
How well do we relate with them to be able to narrate the story? So there are different third-party and proprietary sources that we use. That you, in the end, it's all connected. You have to figure it out which one works best to tell the story, because in the end, it's not how you pull the data or how good you are using tools or analytic tools. In the end, it's how good you are selecting which information makes sense and how you share it with stakeholders around you.
100%. Like it's like critical thinking, evaluating the data. I mean, like now, like it's not. I guess it's not the lack of data that is the issue. It's like how to utilize the data and create value out of it. That's the key lesson here, and it's a very important task. But I wanted to go back a little bit into your journey. At Real Madrid Graduate School, obviously you did your master in sports marketing there, and I wanted to like just pick your brain a little bit about like what were some of the key takeaways that you took from the program that sort of like that you brought with you into your current role and sort of like your journey after you left Spain.
Yeah, sure. Definitely going to that program was a life-changing for me, in the sense that it was the first time I decided like to invest on my own money and quit everything I was doing back home.
Yeah.
Like that sense of, I don't know, being safe, to have a steady job and doing your life, just quitting and going to another country far away from your own.
Right. Big step.
That's great. Yeah, it's a big step, but in the end, that gives you a lot of maturity. You have to learn how to work by yourself, like live by yourself. And I think what the program gave me was a lot of that, of the understanding how to manage several projects at the same time, how also to network. It's very important. It was something that is not very common, or wasn't very common in South America at the moment. It's a very small circle. So I think those two were excellent. And the third was like that, I would say, the vision side, like how you can project yourself in the sports industry to understand what trends are coming, how can you fit in. And that's a little bit like what made me take my journey after it. Like I understood, I had a clear goal of maybe what were my strengths, where should I go, what did I like eventually to do. So definitely I'm talking more of personal way, because I think obviously what we learned and the people that taught you the program were amazing. Everybody was great. But in the end, it's also how they change a little bit of your mindset for the future. So I think that's definitely a big step for me, and a great one of things I'm the happiest of being able to done in the past, probably.
Right. No, I mean, like it's as you were talking about, it's that sort of like, I guess in a sense, first major step outside your comfort zone, and taking that risk, but also like as you were saying, like looking at it like as an opportunity, and now like, okay, how do you maximize this opportunity, and it's really good to see sort of like as well like that you came out of the program in a very clear manner, which I guess in a sense it's the purpose of it too, of like just getting you a little bit on track, right? I think a lot of people are just going into these programs and like, because like it's very hard, I think in a sense in general, sports education these days, because it's very how can I say, it's very overall, in a sense it's very pieces of
Okay.
everything, right? And of course, like you did sports marketing, but even within sports marketing, it's a lot of different paths and
Yeah,
journeys.
for sure.
And
Yeah, there are
so,
always different paths you can take, and you never know which one is the one you like. So you have to go with an open mind.
yeah,
And I think like just going to enjoy it and see and surprise yourself of what could happen. You never know what's the road you're going to take. Like I never knew going to Spain eventually was going to lead me to have my own startup. Like I
right,
thought I would probably stay in Spain working in some club or company, and I
yeah,
finished coming back to my home and starting my own company. I never thought of that at the beginning. So
right.
I think that's probably something the masters gave me. I never thought it was going to happen.
Mm. No, but it's like going in with that open mindset, which are like
Yeah.
a critical stage here. And I mean, like, since we're already into the whole entrepreneurial bubble here, and talking a little bit about you've been working on different kind of projects. I wanted to specifically talk a little bit about Orbita Sport and C Sports Peru, and wanted to talk a little bit about like how these projects in a sense came to life, and what was sort of like the key purpose behind them?
Yeah, no, sure. Those were the most recent projects I started working on. They both started during COVID.
Nice.
So always like the beginning of the story we were chatting is my goal has always been trying to help my region improve in the industry.
Yeah.
I like working abroad, but everything I can in my career and an opportunity I have learning and working in other places, somehow try to translate it in a way that I could give back to my country and region. So that's how Orbita started. It's basically we're 4 people from the region, from Mexico, Colombia, and Peru.
Nice.
And the idea was to try to organize small and big conference events where people from outside the region, from the US and Europe, can bring their knowledge and share them with people around the countries in South America, Latin America.
Nice.
For the first one was free, but ideally on a free or very low cost access for people just to know what's happening outside the sports industry in Latin America, try to learn, trying to connect, and try to grow the industry as a whole. So yeah, it's basically we're 4 people that have the same mindset but from different countries. That's how we pull it off and try to make it happen.
Yeah, that's how it should be. It's all about that mindset and just coming together and make things happen.
Yeah, definitely, and it's like a side hustle we have and try just a passion of ours to make it happen. Right. It doesn't have like any. We're not looking like becoming rich from this. It's just make it happen. Yeah, just try to help people. That's what we love. We want to make the industry better always.
And it's like giving back, right, to the community, to the country, as you were talking about too. And it's like I know sort of like that feeling too. With starting Sporting Global, it's like how can I give back to Norway? Like how can I help the Norwegian sport industry with this as well? So I totally relate with your mindset. Different countries, same mindset.
Yeah, same mindset, just different places in the world. But yeah, we have the connections. We had the opportunity to go and work to other countries, and not many people can do it. So that's a little way to give back to the rest. Right. And on the other side, Zeta Sports Peru, it's basically in April. It's funny because I co-founded with a sports agency in Peru that I knew him for a long time, his founder, Sebastian, because we competed sometimes even, but doesn't matter. We just started chatting in April, and I've done startup before. I've been incubated, I've been accelerated, I raised funds, startups, so I knew the process that it takes for a sports venture to start in the region. So that's why they approached me, and I always had the idea, and we finally decided to co-found this sports incubator in Peru, focusing in Latin America, with the idea to help early sports startups in the region go to market. So that was I think that's been one of the most enriching projects I've been helping, because I could use part of my background as a startup and incubate it to share that knowledge with people that want to start the same journey. Also, we have the connections around the world that we can also help them reach out as mentors. In the end, it's hard to start in the sports industry if you don't have some type of connections or a guideline. So it's been great. And in COVID, we started our first generation of 5. They already graduated. Some of them did great. Like there's a female sports apparel focus on soccer. That has already like been featuring like in FIFA Volta or other esports that were champions in the region in Valorant. They've been doing great after they graduated from the program. And next year, I was going to say next year, in 1 week, we're starting the second generation of startups, and it's a little bit more regional. The first generation was mostly Peruvian. Now it's just 1 from Peru, 4 from other countries around Latin America. We have new partners around the region, like sports clubs in Colombia, in Chile, companies as well in different parts of Latin America. Big companies like Adidas, IBM that support us. So it's really, really being great, and it's the same idea, same purpose as Orbita. It's not something we're trying to do to make money. It's just something we try to do as a gift back and help improve the sports industry back home. So they're both fulfilling projects to help with.
That's awesome, and I mean, like, best of luck already next week, though. That's that's exciting. I mean, like, thanks for taking the time. You're already super busy with all this stuff, but it's good. I mean, it's important as well to kind of like have these, I guess, in a sense, projects that you're working on to help and give back, right? Because you also know the journey, the challenges that comes with it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, just a little bit on some of your lessons that you learned from, just, starting in Peru, going to Spain, living in the US, kind of like all these kind of, different kind of cultures and countries. And what are some of like the key, I guess, like highlights or key lessons you would highlight from your experience, like in all these countries?
Yeah, sure. Definitely there are a bunch that you can learn off that may be difficult to like tell them all, but I will say first of all, like perseverance. I think it's one of the most important values I've had in my life. Even when I was playing soccer from the beginning, and trying to like, okay, if you get injured, going to sports industry that you don't know anybody, it's just like you're going to fall several times. So you stand up after that. So I think that one's very important. And traveling, being in different cultures, you were mentioning in Spain, the US, even in Peru, and I live in Chile as well. It's like you have to have an open mindset. Like you have to be open. Like you don't know anything. In fact, you don't know anything. You're just going to go other places to learn and get to know people that they know more than you. I think that's the best thing you can have. Not being the smartest person in the room. It's just trying to be next to the smartest people in the room. So I think having that perseverance and that open mindset to just try different stuff, I think that's super important. And also that eventually you're always going to be afraid of change. I've always been and always will be, but it's not that. It's just being brave enough to accept it and challenge it, right? I've done it several times. I was leaving the status quo and just decided to change it. That's how I went. That's how I started working in the sports industry. That's how I decided to go to study in Spain. That's why I decided to live in Chile with our own startup when we're starting. That's how I decided to finish and come into the US. So I would say it's just perseverance, open mindset, and not being afraid of change are 3 things that have helped me a lot in the process. And in the end, the result is going to be bigger than all the work you've done, for sure.
So So what would you kind of, I guess, in a sense, say or advise for those that are, kind of like just sitting here and just kind of like, I guess, in a sense, debating on like, oh, should I go abroad, or should I, like, that voice in your head, there's a lot of people that just, taking that, obviously you went to Spain, like I went from Norway to the US, like all this stuff, right? And it's just like, what kind of, I guess, what would you say to them that are kind of like sitting on the fence here now, and kind of like just, with COVID or other things, like how what are some, like, just, I guess, pointers that you would bring up, and or perhaps that you use in sort of like making that final decision?
Yeah, of course. That's a great question. It's a tough one, right? Because in the end, it depends a lot of what you want and what you're looking for.
Sure.
I think is you always have to have one goal. What's your goal in life? Or what's your goal for the next year, your goal for the next 3 years and 5 years? And work based on your goals.
Right.
If your goal is to work at a sports team in Europe, and you're living in the US or you're living in Latin America or in our region, and as you're going in 5 years, what are the things you have to do to get to the US or to get to Europe or to get to Latin America? So having a clear goal, I think that helps you go backwards and see what are the steps you need to do. Maybe you don't need to go abroad to feel your goal, to find your goal, because you want to work in your market, or if you want to work in your market and you still need experience from the outside to get a job. Okay, so what are qualifications you need for the work or the job of your dreams, or your job of your next 5 years goal? So it's basically, I would say that's the main key, setting a goal. And from there, it's like, okay, what do I have to do? I personally, at the beginning, I was obviously, when I started my career, I was always very focused in my country, in my family, my friends, everybody was there. I was scared of going out, but in the end, I think the best things that happened in my life were living abroad. Like, that's how I learned more about myself, not only in the professional way, but about me. That's what made me wanted to start a company or work in the US, or in personal life, like learn languages and have a family. Like, but all started like probably experiencing cultures and life outside my comfort zone. So in my case, that's something it really helped, and I'm probably, I hope my wife doesn't listen, but I will try to keep doing it. I'm trying to learn about cultures now as a bigger team in a personal way. But yeah, I think it's great, and we enjoy it a lot. So, but yeah, the summary, I'll say, what's your goal? From there, start.
I think is a really good, stepping stone for a lot of people there to sort of like have that as your starting point. And I think you touched upon something really important too, in terms of not just necessarily your, what you gain out of it if professionally, but also from like a personal standpoint, right? Of like just learning like more about yourself, living alone, living, abroad, meeting new people, living in maybe in a different language, having to speak another language, like these kind of factors, it's like a great way to get to know yourself, a little bit better too. And as you say, you're kind of like forcing yourself in a sense into putting yourself in that position, once you take that step. So it's sort of like, all in or not in many ways. But I think it's like important that we talk about it, that it's not just that, professional, professional sort of goal or emphasize on it. It also creates that, personal value, on like your personal life and what you're doing in that. So of course, like at the end of the day, you have to, see what makes sense for you and what makes sense to your goals. But I think it's some really good advice that you put down there.
No, yeah, definitely. I think that's, at least for me, what worked the best. And I would say it's also it's better sooner than later, right? Don't wait. You never know what could happen in life afterwards. If you're younger, it's easier because you have less to risk. You can always go back to what we're doing.
Right.
So that's always a good thing if you can risk it. And also, the sooner you learn, if you like it or not, the sooner you will take a decision, right? Maybe you don't like it, so okay. But afterwards, once you start, like myself, I already have a family. It's not your goal; it becomes the goal of the family as well. Right. You're a bigger team, so things also change. Not it's a bad way; it's a good way.
Yeah, but it's a different scenario.
Different way. It's a different scenario. And I would say it's very similar to the startup way. Fail fast, learn fast.
Right.
Same in life. Fail fast, learn fast.
But it's good. I mean, like, we're already into the whole, tips, advice kind of thing. So I just wanted to wrap up in a sense with, for students out here now that have been, following all the way to the end and sort of like thinking here, like, well, what kind of tips would you have for them that are, looking for breaking into the industry? Perhaps, how do you, I guess in a sense as well, how do you stand out when the competition is so high? Which I think is a very important question, because it's such a high competitive market in sports. It's so attractive. So your 2 cents on, like, what is your key tips and how do you stand out?
Yeah, that's very true. It's tough to stand out in an industry that a lot of people want to be involved, right? So I would say one that has been the best one for me, in case you want to reach me out, it's another one I really take into account and appreciate very much, is like, well, I'll split it in 2, but the first one is like being like honest of who you are, like who you are, true to yourself, right? You don't have to change to somebody else. Like, just be you. That's always being honest and being yourself is always a great way to open yourself to others and to get to know each other. And that takes me to the second point, and maybe the global point, is just try to create true connections, true networkings, not just connect because you have to connect with somebody because he works in X club or X company. Try to create a nice connection, like connect and, hey, I like your experience, I like your background, I would love to chat and get to know you. No strings attached, no I'm looking for a job, no nothing like that. It's just try to connect on a very honest way as possible, and keep the connections with the people you truly find a connection. Like, if you interact with somebody of a club and you have like quick conversation, I think you can keep that in the future. Try to sustain it. If there's somebody you don't really connected with, maybe works in a place that you want to work, it's like, well, maybe reach out to another person from the same club or company. So I think just creating meaningful connections, not just because of the end goal, is very important, because at least in my experience and people close to me, people that are working in the industry want to work with people they like in the industry. So if you create a truthful connection, they'll have you in your top of mind when something becomes available, for sure.
No, I think it's a perfect way to wrap up this podcast with some with some really great insights. And Fernando, I really appreciate you of course taking the time, sharing your story and your insights. And for those of you that have been listening all the way at the end, make sure to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And if you haven't, make sure to sign up for free at sportingglobal.com. Create a free user where you can connect with like-minded professionals. I know Fernando is going to sign up very soon now, so he'll be there as well, so you can connect with him. You can see opportunities that are there as well, and perhaps find some good programs that can help you in your journey. So make sure to do that. And again, Fernando, thank you so much for taking the time.
No, please, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Happy, congrats on the podcast and everything you're doing. I'll definitely join, of course, and and if anyone wants to connect with me, feel free to reach me out.
Awesome. Well, I have one final task for you, Fernando. It's like, we have a tradition here on the Sporting Global podcast, which is I have to learn you some Norwegian. So
okay,
you're up for it?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Yeah, so with every video we do, we always finish with "Vi snakkes," which means "see you later" in Norwegian. So that's what you gotta say.
These nuggets?
There you go. Good job. Perfect. You know,
Awesome.
amazing. Well
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Fernando.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Bye bye.